Hey guys, welcome to the Jiu Jitsu Junction podcast. My name is Andre, and in this episode, I'm with my friend Chase, and we discuss many of the things that are required to be a good Jiu Jitsu training partner. I hope you enjoy the episode, and if you have any feedback, comments, or questions, I would love it if you leave it in the comment section below. Thank you, and let's just get right into it. So today we're going to be talking about how to be a good drilling partner and kind of what goes into it, because it's a very many-faceted topic, and in order to be the best drilling partner you can be, you have to keep a lot of things in mind. So let's start with some of the super basic things that you might need to consider in order to kind of establish a baseline of being a training partner that somebody is going to want to drill with. First thing I have written here is hygiene. So let's look at some more specific things that we actually need to do in order to meet kind of the hygiene requirements that we should all be doing, but not everybody seems to be doing.
General rule is cover your skin. Long sleeves, spats under your shorts, things like that will go a long way kind of from the beginning. But if you have anything open that you can visibly see, blood or skin under your normal skin, it needs to be covered. There all types of new skin and things that'll cover it up. But most of the time, just your waterproof Band-Aid is your best bet. It doesn't cause too much other types of damage to it. So that's definitely one of your first checkpoints. You got an open wound, we have to cover it up.
So new skin, liquid bandage, you just kind of paste it on over whatever cut you have. And I do it until I see actual real skin underneath, and I cover it for probably longer than I need to, but I'd rather be safe.
Yeah, you
but
can
it definitely stings. So if you have to do it, just kind of be aware that it's not going to be pleasant. But I think it's probably the most effective way to be covering up any cuts that we have on our skin. So the next thing I want to talk about is actual rules for how short your nails really need to be, because you see a lot of variance based off of who you find on the mats. There are people who don't cut their nails at all, and then there are people who might think that they're cutting their nails enough, but really, I feel like when you're grabbing a hold of somebody, it needs to be really short.
For sure. Yeah, in wrestling, the referees will actually check, and they touch your fingers, and if they can feel fingernail when they touch the tip of your finger, that's kind of the rule. So you want to be able to touch the tip of your finger, and you shouldn't feel fingernails. And that way you can, physically you can grab with your fingertips and not have nails in anybody. So that's a good little check there.
Okay, yeah, and that's something that I feel like most jiu-jitsu schools don't really talk. They put something up on the wall, and it says, "Trim your nails." But I feel like maybe they should be more specific.
Yeah, hey, always carry some in your bag. So if anybody needs fingernail, hey, I got some.
Yeah,
I keep some in my bag for sure.
For sure, yep. I keep mine on my keychain. So
makes sense.
Okay, so the hair thing is probably not too important for me, but so keeping your hair out of the way, clean, what are...
And if it's in... I don't really understand. I've had long hair almost the whole time I've trained. So I don't understand when people don't wear their gear when they don't put their hair up and they just let their hair grow on their face. And it's like, it's not my responsibility to watch your hair. Yeah. And I find myself having to, people that don't tie their hair up, watch pinning their hair down when I go to grab a choke, not grabbing their hair. I always tie my hair up. I don't like it getting pinned or grabbed. So I don't really I guess that it all goes back to ignorance.
Yeah. Yeah, and something that I run into is that it's their long hair. I accidentally grab it, and I'm the one getting blamed. But that I don't really feel like that's my fault. And I think it's just kind of a misconception that that it's not a big deal. It really is a big deal. That's a lot of stuff that you're supposed to avoid right around one of the main things that you're attacking in jiu-jitsu, right?
Man, I had an MMA fight, and a guy had some big, thick dreads. I'd probably say, when bundled together, that big around. I had a triangle and a guillotine, and both of them, I couldn't get the clamp on the back of his neck from his dreads. So it was definitely that. I mean, and his was kept nice, he done the best he could with the hair he had. But even that, I mean, we've got to keep our hair out of our face. It stays out of our opponent's face, our partner's face. And it just it takes the worry away from my partner. I don't want my partner to have to worry about my hair. If I have a partner, I feel they're worrying about my hair, I'm like, hey, don't worry about my hair. It's my responsibility. So.
Yeah, I wish more people thought that way. So as far as like the cleanliness aspect of the hair, like, do you have anything concrete? Because you mentioned dreads. I know that, like, I've never had long hair. So what kind of other than putting it up and keeping it out of the way, like, how do we treat it? Because I know dreads are probably different.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I went through a period of training and competing where I had dreads. I thought it was and I got dreads because I thought it'd be the easiest way to pull my hair up together, and it was. It stayed together. I just had to actually clean my scalp more. It was kind of because dreads they pull your hair tight. So I would get a little more like irritated hair follicles. So I would have to really extra clean. So it actually helped with mine. Is I would do extra around all the scalp of my head. I would have to kind of extra scrub, and it cut out any issues I had. But that was one of the things that I would do. I just have to keep my hair tied up and pulled up. That's washing it daily, of course. All the above, because we sweat so much, and I can tell if I don't wash my hair in a day. So that's it too. Sometimes when people have dreads, they go 3, 4, 5 days without washing their hair. And if I go 3 or 4 or 5 days, that's 10 training sessions of sweaty hair. So you definitely, I wash my hair out extra when I'm training hard.
Basically after every session.
I mean, yeah, at least. Yeah. And even there are some thoughts about soap and everything. Even if you're just taking water and rinsing your hair out after every session, then washing it once a day. But it just cuts down on smell and any type of folliculitis or anything that I ever had issues with. That's why I had to really start scrubbing my scalp, is when I would pull them up, it kind of irritated the bottom, and then it got irritated. And I had like a bad little case of folliculitis, and I had to put cream on it. And that actually why I started. I was like, you know what, if I can't wash it after every session, rinse it out after every session. And I actually started using just a basic soap. It would hit my scalp, not really get on my hair because of all the thought, all the chemicals in your hair. So I would just scrub my scalp and then rinse my scalp out. Okay. That made a big difference.
Oh, that makes sense. So general cleanliness, take showers, you animals. Do it. Like,
please.
If you can, rinse off before practice. Your training partners will appreciate it. You don't have to do it immediately before. In fact, it's probably better to do it like 30 to 45 minutes before.
If you work a physical labor job, you need to rinse off before you train.
Yeah.
We have guys that work concrete jobs and will come literally right off the job, still got concrete on his knuckles. And that's where stuff gets spread around. So like I believe, hey man, go rinse off, go wash your arms, go wash your legs. Like, even if you're covering up, you can wash. So I actually say that to said person.
Yeah, I know, who you're talking about.
You have not rinsed off, dude. Go wash your arms and wash your legs off. You got concrete dust on your face.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you've been working a manual labor job, please just jump in, jump out. Your partners, just wash your face and your arms and your hands. Your partners will definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, and I would also say that probably, like, you have to be using soap and all of that stuff after training 100%. That's mandatory. It's a health concern.
Within 45 minutes. Within
Yeah.
45 minutes after training, you need to be in a shower, rinsed off. There's some products out there too. Some people that have long drives. There's some.
Yeah, you could use wipes or something.
Yeah.
You just need to cut the multiplication of the bacteria that's on your skin. Basically.
Yes, sir.
But I don't really feel that using soap is quite as necessary for a pre-workout rinse.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to, if there's a shower at your gym or something like that, you can easily just hop in the shower, rinse off the particulates, maybe rinse under your pits or something so that so that you're not like disgusting your training partners, but that's probably enough, to be honest.
Yeah. For sure. Better than nothing.
Better than nothing, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna go on to kind of like a related thing, having the appropriate gear.
Yeah. Man, that goes a lot of ways, right? It's what to wear, when to wear it.
Mm-hmm.
And you got there's a lot of stuff when it comes to gis. You have to wash your gis. I don't dry my gi, but I'm a guy that'll wash a gi every single day and hang it up, and it dries, and I don't have a problem with it wearing a gi out. So you could definitely wash gis. So.
Yeah. So also, if you're going to a gi class, bring your gi. Sometimes we have an issue when it gets hot, where people will decide, oh, you know what, no gi sounds better to me. If it's a gi class, bring your damn gi.
Man.
Because it really cuts the effectiveness of the class, which is supposed to be about learning how to do jiu-jitsu in a gi.
Yeah, one of my biggest pet peeves as a kid's instructor, is when a kid will come to class and they want their gi. Like, where's your gi? Oh, it's in my bag. Oh, well.
Put it on.
Go put it on. Like, what are you doing? I'm trying to teach gi stuff.
Yeah. And like also like if you think about it from a no-gi jiu-jitsu perspective, there's things that you also need to keep in mind there. You really don't want to have pockets. Your gear needs to be either tucked away or ideally skin tight, like a rash guard. People train in shirts. If they tuck it into their shorts, it's less of an issue, But
yeah, but now, like, why do you train in t-shirts now? Like, I don't understand some of that stuff. Like, I can buy a pack of 3 rash guards on Amazon for $22.99.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me not to have rash guards. I guess if you got a cool t-shirt, like a Team USA shirt, I've seen some of our guys do that stuff, but I don't really understand that either.
Well,
like,
you could also just wear it to training and then switch into your rash guard. Then you get to be cool, and then switch into what's appropriate for your no-gi jiu-jitsu.
And then back to your cool shirt afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. I've actually seen some bad stuff in a wrestling room. I wrestled in college, and loose t-shirt. I've seen a finger get snapped.
Yeah.
Just pow, twisted and snapped, and didn't, when it snapped, like, it wasn't like just like it was tangled up in the kid's shirt. Like, they had to untangle it out of the kid's shirt. Oh, it was rough. It was a bad one. So please wear tight gear for sure.
Yeah, tight gear. Like you if you want to really save money on the rash guards and the spats and stuff, you can go off brand. They're like rash guards have been around forever. A lot of jiu-jitsu guys think that, oh, rash guards are a jiu-jitsu thing. They're not. They started with surfing and getting like some sunproofing properties and like those surfing rash guards, the basic tight,
just thin, tight.
Yeah. It's very affordable. And there are even jiu-jitsu specific ones that are now more value brand, very affordable. Spend $20. It's not gonna rip. It's not gonna break anybody's fingers or toes. Like I like you talked about somebody having a twisted finger and snap. I've broken my pinky twice on somebody's shirt. Same pinky.
Oh.
So
yeah,
it's just. I know it's like very basic, but having good hygiene and gear, it just makes you so much more makes you so much more of a good training partner to train with. You don't want any detractors,
No.
especially things that are very simple to solve.
Man, simple to solve, and some people you can't ignore a smell.
Yeah.
You know, you can't ignore an open wound on somebody's hand when you're going with them. Like, you just can't ignore some of those things.
So what's the weirdest smell that you've run into when you're with a training partner? I have a pretty good one. So.
Oh man, that's
All right, I'll go first.
Yeah, because I got a bad one. It's I can't not talk about it.
Right. So there was this guy at one of my old schools.
God.
One of my old schools that I went to, and he had this thing for sugary breakfast cereals, right? Like, and pretty consistently he smelled like Fruity Pebbles throw up or Fruit Loops throw up. And he was probably my least favorite person to interact with.
That's a good one. Yeah. That's a good. We've got a training partner, and it's a smell. It's kind of like wet cat pee.
Wet cat pee.
Yeah, it's kind of like.
I think I've been very successful in avoiding this person.
It's well, that's probably. I think that's a place that a lot of people don't think about. Like, that's where you can save your training gear. That's where you can save. Don't ball your wet stuff up and put it in the corner of your bag because you just trained hard. And unless you're maybe a professional or doing this for competitively, you're probably gonna be tired after a class. Mm-hmm. Your brain usually don't work exactly the way you want it to after class. You may leave that balled up, sweaty thing of clothes in your bag or in the back corner of your car. And then it might not be 3 or 4 days later before you pick it up. And you can't get the smell out of clothes. Yeah. Like, my grandma had this thing where she would put vinegar in the wash machine. Yeah. That shit don't work, the smell.
It helps, but it doesn't help when it's set that hard.
Then you smell like sweat and vinegar. So
the vinegar eventually goes away at least.
Gosh. I remember, like, no, okay. So now, anytime a shirt smells at all, I just throw it away because I can't get you can't really get the smell back out.
Yeah. What kind of happens is you'll treat it, you'll soak it. You'll do all of the things that the internet tells you.
Shirt.
Yeah, you'll do everything that the internet tells you will work, and it will work until about a week later, or as soon as it gets wet. So
as soon as you start rolling.
Yeah, it's like your stuff is gonna end up being musty. Once it's musty, you can only maybe bring it back down one level. And especially with gis. Like if you let gis are expensive.
Yeah,
like even
take care of your gis.
Yeah, and they're thick fabric. It's hard to get them to be completely dry. So you have to be very careful because if you leave anything wet, it ends up picking up a bunch of smell.
Yep.
And it's not just body odor. Like if it's wet with water, it becomes musty, and that really doesn't go away.
Nope. And the big when we're talking about being a good training partner with me, I've literally avoided people, because what makes my clothes stink? Not me.
Yeah,
I could sweat in my clothes all day long. It's the exchange, and I've taken this shirt off after I got done rolling with this person, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I like this rash guard, and I throw it in the trash because it's like, man, I'm going to smell like that person because, man, we're sweating and it's salty and it soaks up, right? Whatever you're wearing, we're both going to smell the same and feel the same.
I have a big spray bottle of vinegar. So if you get the vinegar in there before it sets, it helps a lot because the vinegar will like kill a bunch of the bacteria. It'll reduce a bunch of the fungus that might be there or whatever. All the really small things because the odors are they're really there because you've let things multiply and you didn't get it under control soon enough.
And we're probably beating a dead horse at this point, but
that's true.
I am this is like one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to training because I train a lot. Mm-hmm. So my training gear that I have is valuable to me. I need it to last. I train like today. It won't be a hard training day, but 3 different rash guards will be worn, 2 different pair of compression shorts, and 2 pairs of shorts and a pair of sweatpants will be worn today. I actually hang all of my wet and nasty clothes up. I wouldn't dare let it dry in a hamper. I always hang my clothes up. I don't put it in the clothes hamper until they're dry. And you can tell a noticeable smell difference there. I like you said about getting it before it gets on too. Like sometimes if it's a bad, like I've tried to save them before, I'll take them home and I'll spray them with a hose pipe outside and let them dry in the sun, and that usually will save it too.
Yeah, there's something about the sun exposure that helps.
Yeah, the Thais have that figured out. That's they let all their gear sit out in the sun to kind of get rid of the smell. And a lot of our gloves and stuff at the gym, we practice. You've seen it. We practice at the gym. We put our stuff outside in the sunlight.
I guess the UVs kill bacteria, so it's all about controlling the bacteria.
I mean, how hard is it at our gym to be a good training partner? You're at a gym full of professional and amateur fighters that are trying to be professional. It kind of forces you to take ownership in your own strength and ownership in your own cardio, because man, you're gonna fall. You fall behind just from not being able to move and not be able to hold on. For sure.
And like it's gonna differ a lot from school to school. I did not have to be in good shape in the other places that I've trained.
Yeah, no, I bet.
It's different when you have a room full of wrestlers, like you'll always see in any kind of MMA slanted place, right? So the important thing is really to be able to match the strength and conditioning of your main training partners. Having the ability to kind of give them the right feel as far as weight, as far as strength, being able to keep moving and keeping up with them, having general agility. Like, in order to be the perfect training partner is like you have exact match of physicality. That doesn't really happen all the time, and really good training partners try and make the physicality as close as possible.
Yep. The ability to that's something I talk about. The guys that are higher level, our ability to kind of lower to match someone so we can both get work. That's an important from both sides too.
Yeah. So if you're pretty weak, it's not that hard to build a baseline. You could look up any like beginning weight training program.
Yeah, there's a ton of them. There's probably strength training, beginner strength training for BJJ. There's probably specific stuff out there.
I think that if you're going from kind of like being like I did this. I was a desk jockey. I didn't really do athletics until I became, I don't know, mid 20s. Like I lifted weights a little bit, but it was it was really unfocused. It didn't do a ton. And I didn't really start until later on. And it was kind of surprising to me how much of a difference it made just consistently getting 20 or 30 minutes in of like the basic compound movements. And it might feel a little bit silly when you're, everybody's like doing 2 plates or whatever, and you're there and you're squatting the bar. But I'm telling you, even squatting the bar or doing body weight squats, it shows up. Like any kind of load in which you have to create posture with your back is just so valuable in a jiu-jitsu context.
Yeah, for sure. That's the little things can be done. You said how much of a difference 30 minutes a day can make. Probably one of the biggest things I've learned from being a professional athlete is that. I remember when growing up, high school and college, we would lift weights, and we were scheduled, hour and a half weightlifting time, 2 hour weightlifting time. But it's amazing that when you're super consistent, just 30 minutes can make, as a professional athlete, 30 minutes of strength is all I do right now, and I'm stronger than I'd ever been. But it's 30 minutes, and you said this word too, focused. I think that's really cool. 30 minutes of focused strength work. It could be in the morning when you wake up. That's going to make a tremendous difference in the way you move. Yeah, for sure. And in the way you feel for your partners. Yeah,
building basic athleticism. Yeah, and strength is a part of that. Cardio is a part of that. Mobility is a part of that, which I'm bad at.
Yeah, I think that might even be, mobility might even be the first place I would maybe start. If you're feeling you're lacking a little bit of strength, it could even be not lacking strength. It could be lacking the ability to move your body into a position to apply strength.
Oh, yeah, if you have no core strength, you can't really do a lot of the mobility movements, the mobile things that you need to do in jiu-jitsu. You have to have a little bit of strength, and those kind of tie together more than I would have originally expected when I started like focusing on trying to build some of those attributes for myself.
For sure.
Yeah. So I mean, well, we didn't really address cardio. The cardio thing's pretty simple. You need to be able to move for the whole round.
Yeah.
Well,
Even back it up. You need to be able to move for the whole warm up, and you need to be able to move for the drills, and then you need to be able to move for the technique.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parts before we get to the rolls. Holy cow!
If you're not able to make it through all of the rolls, then that means maybe you should spend a little bit of time on a bike or a treadmill.
Yeah, that's probably a good brand, right? If you can't make it through the rolls, you probably need to do something extra for your general fitness.
Yeah, that's honestly something that I'm working on right now. I'm trying to build the baseline aerobics because I have the strength dialed in enough for my weight. I have random mobility in certain spots and zero mobility in others. That's a work in progress too. But right now, I'm finding that I can't keep moving the way that my main training partners need me to for the entire round.
Yeah.
Or I'm useless for the next guy. And that's it's not ideal either, right? So yeah. Okay, here we go. Show up consistently. That's another good one.
Yeah. Consistent training partners. We're actually running into an issue right now at our gym where during the virus.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. You know what he's talking
yeah,
about.
during that time
Yeah.
where we had to stay in our houses.
Exactly.
we split up into smaller training groups. And that was to protect. We have guys that, fight in the UFC.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So we had to protect, their exposure and all. So what it done is it split a lot of the groups up. And our main classes are missing some of the guys.
Yeah.
And it kind of builds into a thing. I remember me and you talking a year ago, and you were like, man, well, these classes just people aren't coming. I'm like, yeah, well, they're coming at this time and this time on these days. So they're in here, but they're not there. So, yeah, consistent training partners, it's a big problem about everywhere. You got to be consistent. I mean, it's just anything. If you're going to learn anything, I need consistency.
Yeah, and it's not like you have to be there all the time, but if you have like if you're like bigger and you need to work with people who are bigger, you kind of have to like be able to match like the ideal training partners up by class and make sure that you're able to get like the kind of work that you need. Like there are days that I avoid going to class when I would like to go to class because there aren't people that are the right kind of physical or skill match.
Yeah.
So like I went from training 5 days a week down to training 3 because those 3 just kind of ended up being where all of the good training partners kind of came together.
That's where they end up at.
Yeah, and if you have that kind of dynamic and 1 or 2 of those training partners is missing, the quality of training, it kind of goes down.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you get in a rhythm with somebody. I mean, jiu-jitsu is one of those feel things, and you get a partner that you get used to being with.
Yeah.
You can really grow with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I've got guys that, we'll spend a year in a loop.
Yeah.
Where we're working the same set of stuff. It's just because I've kind of got familiar with you. I know you're good there. Mm-hmm. I want to be good there. Mm-hmm. And I want to learn everything you're doing. So we'll roll that same stuff for a year until I'm like, okay, I think I figured this out. Let's go to the next thing.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, show up when you're supposed to. Talk to your training partners.
And use an app, right? Use an app.
You could use an app. You could text. If you have one like very primary training partner, you should probably have their number.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
hey, you coming today? Yep, I'm coming. All right. See you there.
Yeah, exactly. It's really not it's not that hard, but I swear sometimes you get guys in jiu-jitsu who just have no social skills. They don't have any idea that they could literally be like, hey man, can we exchange numbers so that I can make sure that
I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, no, for sure. I'm in one of our big groups. So our heavyweights, we have a guy, Kerry Miller, one of our amateurs. He's going to Worlds in a week and a half. He is probably one of the best at utilizing just a basic group message with his heavyweights. And they got some funny name they tag onto it. But those big guys make sure that they train 2 to 3 days a week where they're like, hey, I'm coming in. This is our separate session. So utilize that, man. That's big. You get a couple guys that, some schools work in groups of 3. And I like when groups of 3, find you a training partner or 2 that you can kind of count on and make an accountability group. That's I know it's a hobby. It's something you're doing outside of work, and you probably have your friends that make you a couple guys that these are your hobbyist friends. These are the guys that you make sure they're there so y'all can drill together and do the right, do the stuff.
Yeah, I feel like people are getting pretty bad at establishing those friendships with people in real life now.
It's crazy, right?
But it'll help your growth if you are willing to talk to people outside of class.
So crazy. That is super interesting, and that's another thing that came from the virus.
The virus, yeah. That helped nothing.
Nothing. Like it just kind of made people that way, right? Where it's like, I can just kind of slip off and go to my house and do everything I need here.
So besides showing up, when you say you're going to show up, and committing to training with your training partners, which seems like a no-brainer, let's talk about how to actually like physically and mentally be a good training partner in terms of actually engaging in the drills, maybe the rolling part too, but let's go with the drills first.
Drills. This is always it's so funny when you kind of helping with a class and you're seeing the class and you see so different mixed levels, and you got people coming to class that may have never done anything. For sure. Try to really pay attention. If it was somebody starting on the mats, I try to give them this little outline, like, hey, do you know anything? And they usually will tell me, yes or no. I'm like, okay, well, if you can, act as if you don't. Yeah. Try your best to pay attention to the details. Like, you can get it, I promise. I know it's really foreign to you, but you can get it. I told you a story the other day of a guy in a class who wanted to ask questions before he tried the move. And it's like, try the move, try to figure it out. Like, look at jiu-jitsu that way. Like, you're trying to figure something out. Like, we talk about being a hobbyist, right? Like, we're talking about finding something to find joy out of this. Figure it out. Like, make sure you're paying attention. Make sure you're watching the key points of the instructor. Yeah. And then if you have a training partner with you, unless they are brand new,
they have some input.
They probably have seen the drill the instructor's doing, and he might not know, but if he says, hey, when you put your head here, you got to put your feet here.
Yeah, for sure.
You should listen to that, especially if you're brand new. So that'd probably be the first place to start, right?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Also, like, they say there's no dumb questions. That's not true. Like, there are dumb questions. You can't ask a good question unless you try it first. You have to find your sticking point. If you don't find your sticking point, you're not going to be able to ask a question that's actually going to move the needle for you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a weird dynamic, right? The guys that have to ask a question. I tell people when I know people have committed to me, I don't do lessons, private lessons, just sporadically. You always tell them when I have somebody that commits, I kind of give them that outline, like, hey, maybe we don't ask a question for 6 weeks. Yeah. Let's just try to figure it out. Like, just try to do what we're saying. Like, I know you're not going to understand it. Just try to do what they're telling you to do. I promise. Especially if it's new to you. They have an idea of the way they want you to move. believe in that, and try to follow with that.
Don't keep altering the drills to cover up your insufficiencies.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention. Shouldn't I just do this? No. No, do exactly what the instructor's showing, please.
Yes, get as close as you possibly can first, and then after you get there, that's when you can ask an intelligent question.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble getting my leg over here. Is there something that I can do about that? That's where the good questions happen. That's how you get the most out of the drill, is by genuinely staying engaged and trying to do it. And then...
Well, because you run into your own problems then, and then you can, like, oh, wait a minute, now I see the way they're doing that, but I can't do that. Can you help? And that'll show, the instructor will see that you're trying the move. I mean, numerous times, and you've heard me say it to my kids, I look at a kid that asks me a question, and I'm like, can you not look at them? They're doing it the same way. You got to at least try to get close. Like, you got to at least, come on, copy them.
Yeah.
And you'll have a 6-year-old look at me, look back, and then they'll start trying to copy, and then they're like, but I can't do this. Oh, now it's time to show and time to learn.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of view jiu-jitsu as like pretty much a purely physical, feel-based kind of thing.
For sure.
And words aren't that good for that. Like words just barely kind of like nudge the flow of thinking, really. Yeah.
The only way I can really teach somebody something is I have to grab you and say, hey, let me show you what it feels like. I can't really describe what I want you to see.
Yeah. I mean, you can get close, but it's never the same as the actual feel. Yeah. The actual physical feel.
That's why it's important to be a good, for being a good partner, you have to give that. You got to try to make it look the way it's supposed to look, so it feels the way it's supposed to feel. Yeah, so it's going to work the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah. So, kind of a part of this focus is, it feels like if you're not with a training partner that's being engaged when, it's your turn. What's up?
Oh, I was just not being engaged.
Oh, okay.
That's what they do, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever drilled with one select guy in our group?
I mean, you saw how much that off-tracked me.
I'm just like, are you paying attention to what the instructor is saying? Like, really?
Yeah.
Hey, that's a good one. I got you.
You got me really good.
Check.
Yeah.
Good.
That's a YouTube short.
It is.
Yeah, staying engaged. You have to be mentally engaged, and you have to be physically engaged. So when you're being mentally engaged, it's kind of like what we were talking about before. Like, you try to do the drill. Then you ask questions if you need to. Stay within the bounds of the drill.
That goes such a long way.
Yeah, try to understand what the drill's for, what the technique might be used in. I could use this submission chain. I could use this movement chain. So stay engaged. Be thinking about it. It should be fascinating. So just like stay mentally engaged, and being physically engaged is another. It's super important.
Yeah, on both ends. And that's a skill kind of on itself, right?
Yeah.
Staying physically engaged. So that's actually something I think when people be beginners, and then when you get to a certain level too, when you're trying to watch details, you're kind of letting the person do the move to you, and you're trying to watch what they're doing, and then you fall over.
Yeah.
So like staying physically engaged, like, okay, I got to stay a good base. I need to. I wouldn't just fall over to my side. I wouldn't just fall over to my face and get extended. Trying to stay physically engaged to keep a good base, to keep a good posture.
Yeah.
I think those are super important for drilling. You got the guys you try to drill and their face hits the mat.
Yeah, if you're supposed to post in order to make the technique chain go forward, post. Be a good training partner on the uke or the receiving end, as well as trying to do the drill for yourself as well.
Yeah, the give and take there, making sure that your job as a good partner. And I talk to my kids about this all the time. One of my biggest goals as a kids instructor is to teach them to be good partners. As kids, skill level and size change so quickly.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
And you have it in a big jiu-jitsu class too. With kids, it changes so quickly. So like I have to the 9-year-old that just hit a growth spurt has to be gentle with the 8-year-old that they were just the same size 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, really teaching kids how to be good partners and how to be good drill partners. Like, hey, listen, you can't run them over that bar. Like, give them a feel. Don't stop them completely.
Yeah.
If they're not doing the move correctly, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But, allow them to do the move. And kids really grasp that soon. I think that's just a conversation that needs to be had more with beginners. It's just, hey, like, little give and take there. Mm-hmm. You don't have to win every position by 30 points. You just got to win it by 1.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And that'll help you tremendously being a good drill partner.
Yeah. So that kind of like that physical engagement, when I'm doing a lot of drilling with somebody, I try to kind of provide a scaling resistance that happens through the class. Like, you start with a little bit of a base that can be broken, just so you can get like the gross motion, right?
Yeah.
And then you just kind of like step it forward, like to where by the end you're at, I don't know, maybe 70% resistance.
Yeah.
And
that's all a high level. Like when we're getting ready in competition, like a high level competition practice. That's the style we do. We show a move, we'll hit it a couple times, get the feel of the move, and then it's like, okay, pick the pace up,
Sure.
and now we stay within bumpers, and that's something definitely worth talking about a little bit, is putting up bumpers. And if we're supposed to be working on a guard pass to side control, not ending up wrestling takedowns.
Yeah.
It doesn't build to the point where you lose sight of it emotionally.
Yeah.
And you lose your focus emotionally, and it turns into a competitive. No, it isn't competitive.
Mm-hmm. Outside
of the bumpers, it isn't. If if both of you stood up, we should stop, restart in the position we're in. Sure. So I really, by the end, that almost live scenario is that's where the growth. That's what you're trying to be a valued partner. Even for the guys that do it for a living, that's what. That's why you'll see at our gym, you'll see some of the pros grab normal guys and drill and work with them, because it's like, hey, you're a valuable drill partner. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter anything else. You're valuable. So that's I think that's probably the biggest one, is being able to stay engaged in those and build a drill.
Yeah.
From both of us feel the move to, man, we're trying to work it and give each other resistance.
Yeah, and and like as a beginner to something that's kind of, this is pretty complicated, right? There's just so much feel involved in becoming a good drilling partner. If you're trying to become a good drilling partner, it's going to take time. Like you can knock out the the hygiene and the gear stuff right away, no problem.
Please.
Super
Please,
easy.
dude,
super eady. So check that one off the list first. That's super easy for you. The conditioning will happen slowly. Just conditioning, strength, cardio, mobility, that all can happen slowly. You should be able to focus, mentally engage as much as possible, but the physical feel, the give and take, that takes a while. Like,
oh yeah, and even still 8, 9, 10 years into it of just jiu-jitsu, and in fact almost 20 wrestling. Yeah. Got better yesterday. I got better yesterday at the feel with one of our high level wrestlers. So that's something that I'm always working on. If you make, you said just a second, and I like that you talked about, if you set a goal to be a better training partner, I think that right there is
that helps a lot.
That's your first step, because you're genuinely saying, hey, you know what? I recognize that I need to be better here.
Right, for sure.
And that's the big one. That's what I love about the atmosphere at our gym, with a fighting atmosphere, even for our jiu-jitsu culture and for our kickboxing culture. It kind of motivates those. We use Big John as an example. Him being in there with Kerry and me training all the time. He's like, man, I have to do jiu-jitsu every day. Y'all do it 2-3 times a day. Why would I not do it once a day?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a cool motivating thing that helps with that consistency.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, just be patient with yourself. Putting some focus on trying to be as good a training partner as possible will pay dividends. It's gonna help. You're gonna higher quality training partners will find you, and you're going to learn more with them than somebody who's willing to work with you even though you're not being a good partner. So like you kind of you end up latching onto certain people, and then you kind of build together, and then the people who aren't good training partners, they get left behind.
Yeah, quickly.
Okay, so I guess one last little tidbit is you should probably be friendly. like that seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, but how important is that? I don't necessarily need to carry on a conversation. Now, if in my hobby, if that's what I'm looking for, is a little more camaraderie there. But if I'm looking for a good drill partner, interaction as far as friendly and stuff, that's not necessarily important to me. Now, you can't be not friendly.
Yeah.
Because I apologize, but that gets straightened out. Can't be not friendly. But I don't know if necessarily I don't think you have to be a friendly person. I think if you're a business, this guy
at least respectful.
Yeah, I guess that would be it. And respect in this sense would be staying focused, staying on task, doing what you're asked. So I don't know necessarily. Obviously, be friendly, love people, share love. That's. But that's it. But as far as I have a few training partners where they're not necessarily friendly. But they are some of my best training partners.
But if you're a hobbyist like me,
be friendly.
Being friendly. If you can be friendly, then that's probably your best bet. If you can find it in yourself.
And I guess the two guys that are not friendly, in their defense, they're two of the baddest people I've ever touched in my life.
We could go into a whole lot more about how you might get more out of rolling a certain way, but that's kind of like beyond the scope of this episode. So we hope you enjoyed this first episode of the Jiu Jitsu Junction podcast, and we will see you next time.